What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? This is after hours. This is after hours. So, don't know what time of the day you all will be watching this or tuned in. I don't know if everybody has been watching, what's been going on in the news. I haven't been able to watch it as of today, but I did hear that there was an executive order between yesterday and today. I know the economy, I know President Trump was out of country and giving a speech or addressing, the economic plans and developments and things like that that are being or going on right now. So a big thing that has been happening is within the past couple of weeks. If you haven't checked out my last video, we talked a little bit, or we did like a little slight live reaction of what's been going on with the 401k. I am going to play or drop another video soon of pros and cons of the 401k. As a local realtor here in Milford, Delaware, but licensed throughout the whole state of Delaware, this has been something that's been going on for quite some time now. As the talk of the town or the community, is the 401k an investment worth people using their 401k for a housing down payment? So I'm catching up on a little bit of news. So for those that haven't heard too much about the executive order, right? So what's happening right now as far as the economic impact, President Trump signed an executive order designed to limit large institutional or Wall Street investors from purchasing single family homes. I'm not 100% against it. The goal is to make home ownership more affordable by reducing competition from big investment firms that buy up houses to rent them out. It also directs agencies to investigate anti-competitive behavior in the single family rental market and prioritize individual home buyers. That's something to pay attention to, because a lot of buyers, especially in our market in Delaware, we tend to pretty much have to fight tooth and nail for affordable housing, and that's been a big thing since pre-COVID, right? When we go back to the 401k discussion back in 2020, where housing down payments were $10,000-$15,000, right? We're in 2026 now, and housing down payments have increased a whole lot, right? So for buyers that I consult with, or individuals that reach out to me, are always asking, how much do I need for a down payment? And I always share, if you don't have a savings account, right now, you definitely need one. You need one as soon as possible. So let's take a look at this clip from what's been going on in the news as of late. So this happened, I believe, around 5 or 6 hours ago. So we're gonna check this out. We're gonna let this play real quick. Let's rock out.
Europe are there, and negotiations over Greenland will take place later today. But you also probably heard him referencing something that's going to impact a lot of Americans here at home, and that is housing affordability, which has been a huge issue for the past several years. It really got worse during the COVID pandemic and during the Biden administration, and now President Trump says he's going to try to tackle this issue and bring down housing costs. But he has to strike a difficult balance, because on the one hand, he wants to make sure that housing is affordable for those looking to buy a house. But on the other hand, he said in his speech today that he wants to maintain high housing prices for those who have equity in a home, who own a home right now. Of course, you don't want to tank the market, because so many Americans, that's their biggest investment of their lives, is home ownership. That's the American dream, after all. So he's trying to make it attainable while also making sure that he maintains those high prices for those who currently have a house. The steps that so far he's taking to do that are threefold. The first, which he signed an executive order on yesterday before he left for Davos, is to basically block or ban big Wall Street firms from buying single-family homes. As you may know, these big investment firms over the last decade, maybe a little bit more than that, have been buying up these single-family homes and then renting them. That, of course, is good for those investment companies, because they can make money off of renting these houses out, and they also have the real estate value of the homes themselves. But it's causing a problem in the housing market for those looking to get into it, to buy a house, everyday Americans looking to do that, because there's limited inventory. That's a huge problem driving up housing costs, because these investment firms have bought, as the president said, up to 10% of all single-family homes in the United States. And so what President Trump is trying to do by blocking these Wall Street firms from buying single-family homes is open up that inventory to everyday Americans trying to buy a house. The second part of this plan is directing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy mortgage bonds, $200 billion in mortgage bonds. And the goal of that is to lower interest rates for those looking to get a mortgage, a loan to buy a house. And then the third part of this might seem unrelated, but the president kind of connected the dots in his speech today, and that's capping credit card interest rates. So what the president says is that Americans are strapped with credit card debt because these credit card companies are charging such high interest rates for people who use credit cards to make purchases, so that they're unable to save money to put a down payment down because the interest rates on their credit cards are so high. So what he's looking to do is cap credit card interest rates at 10%, which in theory would mean that Americans have more money to save up and make a down payment on their house. So the president covered all of this during his speech today in Davos. Obviously, as I mentioned, a huge focus of the speech was Greenland, but these are really some takeaways.
All right, so I'm gonna pause that for a second. I was just sharing my live on Facebook, and so to anyone that tunes in after the fact, I'm just looking over. I haven't been able to catch up on the news, and I'm looking over the new executive order, just paying attention to what's happening in the economy, so that way I can be more versed, or to be up to date, up to speed when it comes to helping individuals in the near future. How this will impact the housing market and real estate. I don't think this is a bad move, to be honest. There's some things going on, especially like for buyers. For some buyers, it's super hard for them right now. If they don't have, as we mentioned from yesterday and a little bit earlier, when it comes to saving up for a down payment. On top of saving up for a down payment, you add on more of a burden when an individual can't find a house, can't afford rent. You know what I mean? So we're just, looking over the executive order, what's happening, with the Wall Street home investors, as the economic address has happened earlier today. So just looking at this video from Fox News, we got a little ways to go.
Ways that everyday Americans could benefit from here if they have the intended effect of making houses more affordable in the United States. And as I talk here, I'm monitoring the live stream on my phone. So if you have any questions about how this is going to work, or comments, or anything you want to add to the conversation, I'm happy to take a look here. But I think this is an important issue, and especially limiting these Wall Street firms from buying houses is something that you might expect to be proposed by a Democratic lawmaker. And in fact, some Democratic lawmakers have made this proposal. So in a way, President Trump might be able to, make this a bipartisan issue that some of the more progressive, liberal Democratic lawmakers could get behind, because after all, this executive order is in place right now, but he also wants Congress to pass a law so that these big investment firms can't buy up houses.
Watch what salt does to blood pressure.
See this branch of arteries right here? The Mayo Clinic calls it the...
So I'm going to scroll through your questions and comments as I continue to have this conversation. I'm reading from Sophia, who says that it's an interesting take. Limiting large Wall Street investors from snagging up single-family homes could ease competition for everyday buyers, but it's not a silver bullet without boosting housing supply. Prices may stay high. This move helps, but broader reforms are still needed. Sophia, to your point, that is also something that the Trump administration has noted and is trying to take steps to alleviate, because obviously these single-family homes that are owned by investment firms, if you open all of that inventory up, we still don't have enough housing inventory in the United States. So some of the things the administration is doing to boost inventory outside of this executive order are, for example, making housing permits easier to get for federal land. That's not national parks necessarily, but it's land that is owned by the federal government. So if they make that available, that could boost housing supply. Another thing that the administration talks a lot about is just cutting red tape in general, making it a lot easier and streamlining the process of building homes. Obviously, the previous administration had a lot of environmental issues that they seemingly chose to use to dictate policy. And the Trump administration, on the other hand, is not focusing as much on those issues as they are these real-world affordability issues that Americans are facing. The timing of this is interesting, too, because President Trump is going to be hitting the road. We learned yesterday on Air Force One, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff at the White House, said that every week up until the midterms, the president is going to go somewhere in the United States and talk about issues affecting Americans from now till November. And next week, we understand he's going to be going to Iowa. We don't have the details on that, but he's going to be talking about the state of the economy there. And the president is very pleased with the state of the economy. You've heard in his speech today and in speeches he's made in the weeks leading up to Davos that he feels that his administration has turned around an economy that was really in the pits from the previous administration. But when you look at polling on the economy, what you see is that a lot of Americans still feel that everyday items like groceries and food and housing and all of those things that we need, energy, all of those things, a lot of people feel are still too expensive. Maybe part of that is because inflation surged and still hasn't come back down to that 2% level, which is the ideal level that the Fed looks at. And so now the Trump administration has to figure out how to tangibly address this issue, especially before voters head to the polls in November in these midterm elections. I'm reading another comment from Cyril, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He says, or she says, this targets a real problem. When large investors compete with ordinary families for single-family homes, prices naturally rise. Limiting institutional buying could help restore housing as a place to live, not just a financial asset. That's a really good point, and it echoes what President Trump said in Davos today. In fact, it was kind of a funny moment when he mentioned the housing affordability topic because he acknowledged that a lot of the people in the room at the World Economic Forum are these big institutional investors that would be targeted by this proposal. So this is the quote that we've been using in our reports today. President Trump says to the people in the room at the Economic Forum, "Many of you are my good friends. Many of you are supporters. Sorry, I am so sorry, but you've driven up housing prices by purchasing hundreds of thousands of single-family homes, and it's been a great investment for them, the institutional investors, often as much as 10% of houses on the market. But," he says, "homes are built for people, not for corporations, and America will not become a nation of renters." And that's the big concern here, that these institutional investment firms have access to capital, have these massive funds, and they're able to use that money to buy up these homes and charge rent for them and who, from an everyday American standpoint, who can compete with these big Wall Street investment firms. So that's what the president is looking to do on that front, to tackle housing affordability. But to some of the points you guys are making in the comments, there is a lot more that needs to be done to improve inventory, to make sure that more housing supply is generated so that housing prices can come down slightly. But as the president points out, you don't want to bring down housing costs too much, because then people who have invested their life into their homes lose out when they try to sell their house, because that is such a big part of their net worth. For most people, as you know, buying a house is the biggest investment they will ever make in their life. So stay tuned on this front. It sounds like the administration has a lot planned when it comes to housing affordability. But they announced these 3 prongs today in Davos, President Trump did, which includes, again, banning these institutional investors from buying up single-family homes, directing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac from buying to buy mortgage bonds, which ideally would lower interest rates, and thirdly, potentially capping credit card interest rates at 10%, which would theoretically free up some cash that Americans could save for down payments on homes. But President Trump would need Congress to act on that front, and he's calling on Congress also to act to make sure that there's a law in place preventing those investment firms from buying single-family homes. So more to come, but this is kind of the recap as it relates to housing affordability, home buying, and that's the big headline from Davos on that topic, while also we continue to follow what the president says when it comes to Greenland, a big topic of interest for all of us here in Washington, D.C., and all of those countries in Europe who are at the World Economic Forum as well. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate.
All right, so that's just a little bit of what's been happening. I had to write down this place called Davos. So that's where, of course, I don't get into politics and all that type of stuff, but definitely have to keep an ear out so that way you can inform, different individuals, clients, your clientele that will be going into the housing market, whether they're building up their credit right now to be able to purchase a house later on, or maybe they already have their ducks in a row. And eventually, they're going to want to purchase a house soon. So this is something to keep an eye on, especially when we talk about, affordability versus access or accessibility for buyers to be able to purchase a home. It's quite tough right now. $2,800 a month, $2,000 a month for some individuals. That's kind of steep. Especially if you got to work 2-3 jobs, especially in Delaware. We don't have a whole lot of high salary paying jobs. You really have to know your stuff. You know what I mean? So for the average or middle class family that's not making enough and barely making ends meet, this could potentially, later on down the line, it could be something, where home prices, can become more affordable. It's discouraging, probably to the corporate buyers. But the idea is to, pretty, make it easier for the first time home buyers and families to compete in the housing market. It's tough. it's tough for the individuals that are brand new, especially now that it's tax time. You definitely want to put some money to the side. But however, because institutional investors currently own only a modest share of single family homes nationwide, you see it on the news. You see experts saying that the practical effect of it all, prices may be limited. Prices may be limited, unless they're paired with increased housing supply. It could help. It could help. I'm not 100% against it, and especially with the credit card situation. That's a whole nother video with the credit card situation, with the administration trying to limit the interest rates on credit cards down to 10%. That would save a whole lot, especially for home buyers that have credit cards and trying to pay it down. And every time they go and pay a payment, they're being charged, an extra, 20%, 15%, depending on who they're going with, and to all the credit card companies that's sending out credit cards and sending, pre-approvals that, hey, you can get this credit card for $500 a month. I mean, not $500 a month, but your credit limit at $500. And but when you get the that bill in the mail and it says oh well, you have 100 to pay, but then you got the interest rate on top of that, and it brings it up, that's discouraging to some buyers. So I'm not totally against the 10% cap on there. So we'll be looking out for more information. They saying that administration is headed out to Iowa, soon. So don't know what's going to come out from there. So as we know, the $200 billion in mortgage and bond purchases. That was an earlier move aimed to lowering about borrowing costs. So it's a lot to look out. So definitely to all the buyers, sellers, definitely keep an eye out, because even for sellers, unless an individual is, pre-approved or is paying cash, or if they're like these Wall Street investors or big time investors that can just corporate investors that can just come in and buy up a whole block. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something to pay attention to in the coming days, coming weeks, actually all the way up to midterms. So I'm pretty sure the headlines are going to be filled with all types of information. Some could be beneficial, and a lot of this is probably, of course, for votes and all of that type of stuff. But hey, if it helps the buyers, if it helps realtors that close more deals, we're not 100% against it. We're just looking for different routes, because a lot of times, especially in Delaware, where certain times of the year programs come out where it helps with closing costs, it helps with down payments. I think around COVID, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, when there was 20,000 out there, 30,000 for some buyers, depending on their situation and if they were approved for those. That was grant money that they didn't have to pay back, or they would have to pay back if they were to sell the home early. So it's a lot of things that's just happening, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Hopefully, of course, we need the housing inventory. It's been steady right now, but hopefully the inventory will increase, so that way it meets the demand of buyers, right? So right now, I mean, it's been slowly getting to where we need it to be. Houses are still being sold. It may not have been as much pre-pandemic, but people are still purchasing houses. Whether this goes into effect or whether it doesn't stop the everyday buyer or the seller for purchasing another house. So a lot going on in the housing industry, something to pay attention to with the executive order and with some other details coming down leading up to midterms, as we said. So definitely, I would like to know Any of you that's watching this right now or haven't gotten to, or by the time you see this, if it hasn't, the midterms haven't came up just yet. So leave a comment, subscribe to my channel as I'm building it out. I think I'm gonna call it After Hours with Dell. So if you're looking to purchase, if you're looking to sell a home in the area, I would love to connect with you. Had an amazing call yesterday from someone. So and we have a listing on the market as well. So we're looking to do some amazing things in 2026 and to help out as many people as possible. As many people as possible. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of things coming up as far as events. And so I'll make sure that I'll post that on the next stream if I can't get it up right now. On the next stream of the events, and I'll go a little bit more into details on those, and hopefully I can stream over to Facebook. But just trying out this streaming thing so that way, you know, I can reach more people, audience that is looking to move to Delaware, looking to sell in Delaware, or to, you know, purchase a home in Delaware. So home, land, residential, commercial, whatever the case may be. As far as rentals, it's been very tight with rentals, especially, I believe, we have to do another video because I believe something went into effect where they're saying that the landlords, I don't know about everywhere else, but in Delaware, and I have to do my research on this, but I heard through some sources that, you know, landlords now have to consider, you know, Section 8 vouchers. So that's a whole nother video. I'm gonna put that on my list. As far as the Section 8 vouchers, and how that's going to take a effect, especially in Delaware. I work with a lot of people, and, you know, rub elbows with a lot of people in different areas, and, you know, the list goes from Genesis to Revelation when it comes to Section 8. I'm hearing that list or waiting list is as long as 2 to 3 years old, if not older. You know, people are waiting, you know, to get in. They have their vouchers, or, you know, they're set to get their vouchers. So we'll see what that look like in the coming days. We're in the coming months as we head out of winter into spring. Spring is around the corner, so get ready to, you know, lace up your boots because it's going to get a little crazy during the springtime. Warmer weather. It's getting closer to that time where tourists are going to be coming back to Delaware. And so that's something to pay attention. We have a whole lot to talk about. We just getting started, but needless to say, if you haven't done so far, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to my channel as I'm building it out. We have a lot to talk about. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, text me, call me. My number and office number is open to the public. So I get text messages, calls all the time. And looking forward to meeting and working with anyone who is watching this, whether you are a lender, whether you are a real estate developer, investor, landlord, whatever the case may be. Dell Hudson, serving Milford, Delaware, my hometown, and surrounding areas. So licensed throughout the whole state. Done some work up in Newcastle all the way down in Sussex County. So looking to work with any of you, my number is on the website, and I'll make sure to put all that information out there. Or check me out on Facebook, follow me on LinkedIn, Dell Hudson Realtor, Dell Hudson AI Consultant, Dell Hudson on LinkedIn. So reach out to me, here to help. I hope this was something good as I'm getting started in this streaming thing. So appreciate y'all for tuning in if you are watching, and if not, watch through. Let me know some tips on how I can better do my streaming. I take in constructive criticism. So I'm getting ready to get out of here. I got to get some gas for my car, as it is going to snow this weekend, and got to get some things from the store. If I don't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'm gonna definitely stop and get some gas because I can't be pushing. But anyway, peace out, y'all. Dell Hudson in Delaware. Buy and sell with Dell. Peace.